Their Facebook Live event. We are doing Clean Eating 101. You're here at Artisan's Palette. I'm the owner, Pia Maffei, and the person that's going to be delivering the class today is Sharissa Bradley, my partner in crime for Clean Eating. We are both clean eaters, but we always make the point of saying we eat different things, and that's okay. And that's part of this series, is to explain what clean eating is and what clean eating is for you. It's definitely not about telling you what to eat. It's about explaining to you the questions to ask about what you're eating. Okay, that's the most important thing about clean eating. So last month, this is a series. So last month we talked about the importance of reading the ingredient list, not the nutritional facts, the ingredient list. Today we're going to talk about the importance of picking organic if we can, non-GMO for sure, and whole foods. So if we're not at that stage, how we can make better choices when we're at the supermarket. In a store like this, everything is safe because I curate the store. So I'm a clean eater, so everything in here, unless you're doing something like really like not doing nightshades like what Sharissa does, then that's more specific, and we say, okay, well this one's for you, but this one's not for you, and we go through that in the store. So because the store is still in operating hours, I'm going to go back over to the register and hand it over to my partner in crime here, Sharissa, and she's going to go through and explain to you how you can easily follow some guidelines on this episode of Clean Eating 101.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I just wanted to quickly reiterate a couple of things since I have some new people today, what this series is really all about. So Pia and I decided that with getting all of the questions that we get when people come into the store, and just as a nutritionist myself, I get people asking me all the time, how am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to eat? And how to make better choices for themselves. So last week we did an episode on it's never too late to start making good choices for yourself. And this week I really want to talk about healthy switches in the way of going from conventionally grown foods to eating more organic foods. And I do want to touch today on the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. So if there is financial problems with going all organic, let's make it so we're at least getting some of the best things that we can get that are organic, and avoiding the ones that are really not good that are conventionally grown. But a little bit of back history on this. So being a clean eater doesn't mean that you omit any one thing from your diet. It just means that you know where the food is coming from, what sources the food has from it, or where it came from, where is it being sourced from, and really understanding the ingredients. So the purpose of the series is, like Pia said, is to get you to understand what types of questions to ask. So when you're in a restaurant, or you're at the grocery store, or you're even being here, you should still ask the questions. You should still be checking the labels, even if it's just for practice. Because like Pia said, everything in this store has been hand-picked for quality, and she really, really does check quality control. And we have people who come in here all the time with tons of different health issues who say, I can't have this, I can't have this, I can't have this, I can't have this. And one of my favorite things to do is say to people, every single thing in this store is safe for you. They come in and say, I don't eat soy, I don't eat dairy, I don't eat corn, I don't eat sugar, I don't eat all of the things. And I get to say, great, get yourself a basket, load it up, because there's nothing in this store that's going to hurt you. But that being said, you should still be checking. You should still be learning and understanding a little bit more about what's going into your body. So even things in this store, anywhere else, in any restaurant, you should still know. So even if you're going to a 5-star rated restaurant that the plates are, minimum $75, that doesn't mean that they didn't get your meat from the conventional farms where these animals are living in tiny little cages and standing in foot deep waste, waist level of their own waste. Like, that doesn't mean that. It just means that they have a higher star rating and a famous chef who knew better how to put sauces on something and cleaned the plate a little prettier and put a tablecloth on and charged you a lot of money. But knowing where things are sourced from, knowing what farm they came from, how were these animals raised, what kinds of hormones are you eating just by eating the animal, right? We have all kinds of things that are coming up now that didn't ever used to exist before. One really terrifying thing that happened to me when I was I was 23, 24 years old, and I was trying to have a baby, and I couldn't get pregnant, and I was going to the doctors, and I had these issues, and I needed antibiotics for something, or so they said. And at 24 years old, I took a dose of antibiotics, and it didn't work, and they told me you're antibiotic resistant. You already are resistant to these antibiotics, so it doesn't work for you anymore. And then I started researching, why in the world would someone like me, who eats, healthy, I thought at that point in my life, be antibiotic resistant? And the reason is because all of the animals that we're eating and the foods that we're eating and all of these things that we're putting in are laden with antibiotics. 80% of the United States antibiotics, the use of antibiotics, is in the animals that we're eating. So we're getting a nice healthy dose of amoxicillin every time we put one of those conventional pieces of steak in our mouth. So that's really, really important to understand, where is your meat coming from? And not only where does it come from, but what is the meat that you're eating? So when I first started in my clean eating journey, really got started, really understood what I was doing and where I was going, that was one of the first things I decided to change. Was, okay, well, I stopped eating corn, I stopped eating wheat because I have celiac disease, so I couldn't eat the wheat, and I stopped eating soy because it was affecting my hormones, but I was still eating meat that was eating soy and corn and grains. So that's what I was getting. So I wasn't getting any better, even though I had cut those foods out myself, because the meat that I was eating, that's all they had been fed. So you're going to get that too. Versus eating a cow that has been grazing its whole life, eating tons of great grass, which is really high in the vitamin A, all the B vitamins, and getting all the good protein that you need from an animal that's been fed right and treated correctly and didn't need any antibiotics, because they were out living and grazing and living in the sunshine and drinking fresh water and not living in their own waste, right? So tonight's discussion is going to be all about understanding where your food is coming from and why it's so important to ask those questions. So now our food industry, has gotten to a point now where we've supported so much of the bad, and they've gotten away with so much bad, right? They've gotten away so much that we're willing to go to Jack in the Box and order tacos that we know actually has no meat in it. We know it. They came out and they said it, right? They came out 5 years ago, they said, there's no meat in our tacos, it's made with soy. These are, vegan-ish, whatever. There's no meat in our taco. And it's a piece of, American cheese, which isn't real dairy at all, right? Hydrogenated oils compressed in a little packet that doesn't melt or change its shape or form probably all the way through digestion. And they told us, this is what's in our food. And what did we do? We kept buying it. We kept supporting the industry. And even though they came right out and told us, our need, the necessity for us to have that convenience factor, didn't help us to change our habits. We knew what was bad. We knew that we were eating soy. We weren't even getting any meat. And we kept supporting the industry. So much so that they're building new places. They're expanding. And those tacos are one of the most sold things on their menu. Right? 2 tacos for $1, going through the drive-thru, 2 o'clock in the morning, I got a hankering for some soy. I'm gonna get my tacos on. We still do it, right? So when we know we've supported this industry so much, they've gotten away with so much, then now we have to backtrack so much. We have to go so far back, 100 years back, and we got to reverse all this damage that we've done to ourselves and to our bodies. And the start of all of that is organic. Okay, that's what they've started with. They said, okay, I understand that you don't want to eat these foods anymore, some of us, right? There's probably a group of 15 to 20% of the United States that's I don't want to eat that anymore. I realize that this is what's causing my problems in the first place. I'm going to back it up. I want to go a little bit more back into what I was supposed to be eating the whole time. So some farms came out and they said oh, okay, we'll go organic. Now organic is not devoid of pesticides or herbicides. It doesn't mean that there aren't farms around there that are still growing things that are organic. And it doesn't mean that it's not GMO. So GMO, genetically modified seeds, what they did, they took seeds that were growing in areas, flourishing without having any problems. So say it's a crop of corn that could grow in a drought. that could grow without water, that could grow without tilling the soil, without changing it. In order to grow proper corn, they're supposed to, sorry, what?
Just while you're talking.
Oh, yeah.
Organic now, the label does mean non-GMO.
Right, now it does,
Yes.
right.
Just FYI.
That was right. Okay, so now, good question, or good point. But GMO, what it means is they took those seeds that were growing properly in those types of conditions, so they had maybe they didn't have as much water, maybe they were growing in a really hot area, and they seemed to outlive some of the other crops. What you're supposed to do with a corn crop, like what they did back in the day, is they grew corn one season, the next season they would grow something else, typically soybeans. The soybeans put nutrients back in the soil that the corn needed to grow. It needed the nitrites in the soil, right? It needed to have the hydrogen, the nitrogen back in the soil in order for the corn to grow. They stopped doing that because they started infusing the soil with the nitrogen. So now we don't need to switch the crops every year. So we took those seeds, genetically modified them, meaning they took those properties, created more of those seeds, and that's what's being eaten. So if it doesn't say organic or non-GMO, a lot of them do have both now. But if it says organic, USDA organic approved, then it's going to be the non-GMO too. But that's important to understand. So non-GMO means that the seeds have not been messed with, and organic means that it doesn't have certain pesticides on it. You're not going to have Roundup on your apples. You're not going to have Roundup on your berries, things like that. So the things that I want to make the distinctions about tonight, I want to tell you about the fact that the soil doesn't need to be changed every year now. Okay, so this is an important thing to understand, because now that they don't have to change the soil, now that they don't have to plant other crops in the interim, or in the next season I got to plant something else, now what they're doing is they're just growing the same thing over and over and over again. And what happened to the soil is it became very depleted. Very depleted. So people ask all the time, why do I need to go organic? There's several reasons. One reason is because if you're eating an apple that's conventionally grown, or any type of fruit that's conventionally grown, you're getting a ton of different chemicals, but you're also not getting, which is more important in my opinion, you're not getting any minerals. And you're not getting the vitamins and the things that it says, like, hey, here's this apple. If I was going to smack a nutritional label on it, it would say, like, you're going to get vitamin A and vitamin C and vitamin K. Well, you're not if the soil didn't have that in it. The only thing you're going to get is what chemicals were in the soil that grew and helped make that plant. That's it. That's what you're getting. So then the next thing is, okay, Sharissa, why do I need to take magnesium? Why do I need to take zinc? Why do I need to take selenium? Aren't I getting any of these things from my fruit and vegetables? Well, no. The short answer is no. It's not coming anymore because it used to be in the soil. We used to grow the vegetables in mineral-dense soil. The animals that we eat used to eat plants that were growing in mineral-rich soil. And now, instead, we're eating plants that were GMO seeds with a bunch of chemicals in them, no vitamins and minerals. And the animals are eating those GMO soy, corn, and grains, so they don't have any more vitamins and minerals. And they got to be pumped full of antibiotics in order to live. Because one of the things that happens when an animal eats the diet that it's not supposed to eat, this thing drives me absolutely up a wall. Foster Farms has a new truck, brand new truck. It's got a big green logo on it that says, all organic, fed a vegetarian diet. They are proud of that sign. Birds are not vegetarians. They're not. They're not meant to eat corn and grains. They're meant to eat parasites, bugs, the worms from the soil. They're meant to graze around and eat those things from the ground. They're not meant to eat corn and soy and grains. It can be part of their diet. It can be something that they add into it. They just graze and eat all day, but that's not what their diet is. So to have something that you're so proud of, all vegetarian fed, and I just want to scream, they're not vegetarians. That's not how they were meant to be. And the cows are their body. They have two stomachs. One's called a rumen, and they are meant to eat grass. The grass goes into one stomach, and that's in that first one that it goes into, what happens is a bunch of bacteria is created in their stomach, in the first one. That bacteria creates the protein from the grass. So the bacteria grows and eats from the grass. That bacteria then goes into the second stomach. Now they're digesting protein and all the vitamins that they need, including your B vitamins. Now, if they're not getting grass, they're getting grains, what happens is they often get massive infections because their body's doing something that it's not supposed to do. And in order to combat those infections, they get the antibiotics. And they don't do it like, oh, this cow is sick, I'm going to give it antibiotics. They put it in with the food. There's no option. They just eat antibiotics and corn and soy their entire life, about a year, 3 years. Sometimes they can go even 6 months because they just stand and eat all day long. And then they get slaughtered and then we eat them. And that's conventional meat. That's all it is. They stand in a little cell, and if it says on the label grass finished, they went outside for a week before they died and ate grass. That's grass finished. And that's it. And they're sick. And they're all steroided out looking because they're just sitting and eating all day long. And they're full of antibiotics. So our precious little babies that are eating all this crappy food, and then they get an ear infection, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor says they have an ear infection, they need amoxicillin, and a week later the ear infection doesn't go away, and you say, but why? You made me give them these antibiotics. Like, oh, but they've been eating antibiotics for the last 5 years, and now it doesn't work anymore. So there's a much more serious problem at hand by eating conventional meats and by supporting a conventional industry. So the way we get out of that is we ask the questions, we find out, where is this food coming from? Is it even real meat? If I'm eating tacos laden with soy and I'm not even getting any real meat, where does the soy even come from? Right? It's just some byproduct that the cows couldn't eat, so they shipped it over to Jack in the Box and they compressed it into some meat-looking shape and put it in your tacos, told you about it, and we still eat it. Right? I mean, it's the saddest truth ever, but it's the truth. Any questions so far? Am I shocking and awing? I don't mean to.
If you're eating the meats and you go to grass-fed or non-GMO products, then can you reverse the antibiotic resistance? Or is that
that's a really, really good question. Can you reverse antibiotic resistance if you stop eating the conventionally grown meats? Now, I would like to say that that seems plausible because our bacteria in our gut is constantly changing. So if we can kind of kill down and make sure that we're getting enough good bacteria in our gut, most likely what's going to happen is you're going to end up not needing the antibiotics in the first place. You'll learn enough about your body to fix things without ever having to go on the antibiotics. So you would never even learn if you needed or were resistant to them. But as our gut is changing regularly, probably it would be more useful to you as you got older. But then we're seeing things all the time like H. pylori overgrowths in older people, and that kills them. Like, I had a good friend of mine who back at Thanksgiving, Christmas time, her mother was in the hospital, told her she had H. pylori, she was dead in a week. 1 week. And the reason that is, H. pylori is a antibiotic resistant bacteria strain that once it goes overgrown in your body is very difficult to kill. And that's one thing that never should have happened. But because we're eating so much antibiotics and we're killing bacteria constantly without adding any more good bacteria in, then we're starting to see these overgrowths and these resistant bacterias. Like MRSA is an antibiotic resistant bacteria. And same thing, you get quarantined, it can kill you, it can spread to your entire body, and there's nothing they can do because the bacteria, the antibiotics that they're giving you, you've already been pumped full of for the last, 40, 50 years, and then there's nothing else you can do. You just wait until it runs its course and destroys everything else in your body in the meantime. These things didn't used to exist. It wasn't, and people ask me all the time, like, well, but what about my grandma? What did she do when Well, stop you right there. She didn't have to, because we didn't have these problems back then. We didn't have these issues because we weren't eating the way we were eating. We lived on farms. We raised our own animals. We had our own milk. We made our own milk, or we made our own cheese. We made our own butters. We had such good bacteria. We were playing in the dirt. And then we just tried to mess with the system. We tried to play God. How can I make more food for people? How can I make people fuller longer? Let's add the corn. Let's add the grains faster. How can I do it cheaper? Cheaper is the biggest one. Faster, make more of a profit, and support all these industries that are killing you, really, I mean, for lack of a better phrase. Okay, that went further than I thought it was going to, but sometimes I just gotta let it go, you know? Okay, so last week we talked about checking the ingredients, so that was more about things that you're gonna eat that are processed in some way. So everything in the store, even though it's got really clean, whole ingredients, it's still been processed in some way, so it's got a label on it. So even if it's a really, really good fruit and nut bar, somebody had to take those fruits and take those nuts and put them into a bar and package them. So there was something that happened in the process. Tonight I want to talk about foods that don't have a label on them. So people ask me, well, how do I read labels? Well, when you're eating clean, it's very rare that you come across a label. If you're going to shop the perimeter of the grocery store, you're going to go to the meats, you're going to go to the vegetables, to the fruit, to the nuts and seeds. There's no reason for those things to have a label on them to begin with. So I think I've made the point pretty clear about why we want to eat organic foods. Organic foods have more nutrients. They have more in the soil, so you don't have to add as much into your diet, like adding the magnesium and adding the other minerals. Thank you very much, Pia. The other minerals. But if you're not getting those organic foods, and maybe it's a cost thing, maybe it's dramatically more expensive to change my entire family over to an organic diet than it is for me to just keep eating this conventional way. Well, my first argument to that is that really, honestly, you can't afford not to eat this way, because the cost is going to come one way or another. It's going to come in the form of your life, your health, longevity, happiness. Ultimately, if you're 60, 70 years old and your kids are having to do everything for you because you don't have the energy or the stamina anymore to do it for yourself, that's going to be a big heavy cost. Okay, not to mention the pharmaceuticals, not to mention the hospital bills, the doctor's visits, and all of those kinds of things. The whole point of eating clean, well, for me and for Pia, for other people that we know, is longevity. We want to live long, but not just be alive. Right? We want to thrive, we want to have the energy, we want to look good. When people tell me, I was thinking about it this morning, I was actually listening to a country song. I love the stories in the country songs about I want to grow old with you. I think to myself, I don't want to grow old at all. I want to continue to get younger. I want my cells to be regenerating constantly into a better, healthier form. I don't want to get old and die next to someone. I want to thrive and jump off cliffs and, hang glide and mountain jump. I want to do all of those things as I get older. I don't want to be planning for my, my funeral home. I want to be planning my next airplane jump. So that's the point for me, is not just longevity, not just being alive, but have it be worth something to you. And if that means something, if that strikes a chord with you, then you can't afford not to. Okay? But I am going to give you a couple of options. So one thing, if you can't go all organic, start with one thing at a time. Pia had a great idea earlier this afternoon saying that if you can't have all of your meals be organic, plan one meal a day that's all organic. That's one out of the 2 or 3 meals that you eat during the day that's all organic. Maybe it's the meat. Maybe the meat is the most expensive part, so you go to the vegetables first. If you can't do those things, then we've got to make sure you're getting the minerals. At the very, very least, you've got to add the minerals back in. Number 1 being magnesium, and then selenium, boron, silica. Those things are supposed to be in your diet. Your body needs to have them. Okay, so if you're not switching over, you're still doing conventional, add in the good things that you're not getting from your food anymore, and really have a clear understanding that you might eat this bowl full of beautiful fresh berries and think I'm getting so much good for my body, right? I'm getting the bilberry for my eyes, I'm getting the vitamin K, I'm getting vitamin C, I'm doing all these great antioxidant things, but really you're not, really you're getting a bowl full of pesticides and chemicals that are devoid of any minerals, and they're not helping your body at all. So keep that in mind when you're thinking, okay, like I want to do this really good thing for my body. I want you to do that. I want you to do the really good thing for your body, but I want it to actually be good. So start with one thing at a time. So last month I challenged all of you to do one major switch in your life. So maybe it was salad dressing, or the chocolate that you eat, or the flour that you use, or the granola that you use. One switch. And tonight I'm going to challenge you, because every month I'm going to have a challenge for you. This month my challenge is going to be switch out one aspect of your diet to being organic, non-GMO. So if that's one thing, is this summer, I'm crazy about the blueberries. I'm only going to buy organic blueberries. I am crazy about blueberries. I will eat an entire carton of blueberries every single night. When we get them in my farm box, we order from Harvest to You, the farm delivery service here in Temecula. When they give me blueberries, I hide them in the back of my fridge. I'm not kidding you, because I don't want my children to eat them. They're mine. I hide them in the back of the fridge. They can eat anything else. I just really want the blueberries. Like, I would share with them, except they don't appreciate them as much as I do, right? So at night, after they go to bed, I want my handful of cold blueberries. If someone else eats them, man, it's going to be hell to pay. Last night I didn't have any blueberries, but they did send me fresh champagne grapes. Oh my gosh, handful of cold grapes. It totally hit the spot. So the one thing that you're going to switch, maybe you eat something very regularly, maybe it's once a week you have steak, or you have, whatever the meal is. Change that one meal to organic. And just see the changes, the domino effect that it's going to have on your life. When we make one good positive switch for ourselves, we start to feel better. You start to notice the difference right away, and it's motivating to change to the next things. Okay, so one switch to organic in your diet. If you've already got a lot of things in your fridge that are organic already, go up to the next level. Maybe you switch your meats to organic. Maybe you come here and you get the Primal Pastures meat, which is all beyond organic, actually, if you call them. They'll tell you all about their how they do things, their practices up there, what their animals are raised on, the life that they live. I mean, it's just, if you're going to eat the meat, at least have it be a respectable life, right? I mean, that's how I think about it. Okay, so the clean, there's a list out there, and it changes every few years. They research it, and it's called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. What that means is there is a section of fruit and vegetables that still have enough minerals and don't need as many pesticides as other fruit and vegetables to grow. So they naturally use less pesticides on those foods. Okay, so the Clean 15 are sweet corn, avocados, pineapple, cabbage, onions, sweet peas, and remember this is recording, so if you forget something you can go back and watch it again, and you can Google the list. Google has this, okay? Papayas, asparagus, mangoes, eggplant, honeydew melon, kiwi, cantaloupe, cauliflower, and grapefruit. So those are the Clean 15. That means if you can only afford to buy so many things organic, those are ones that are acceptable to buy that are conventionally grown. Look for the non-GMO sticker if you can, as best as you can do. But if you can't get everything organic, those ones are okay to not buy organic. The dirty list, okay, dirty dozen, this means they are the worst ones, the worst offenders of amount of pesticides, devoid of the things that you need, that don't have any good qualities about them unless you're getting them organic. So these are the, if I change something in my diet, I'm not going to ever buy these 12 things conventional ever again. Okay? Strawberries, spinach, nectarines, apples. Apples, a funny story, not funny, haha funny, but funny like, oh my gosh. They've done studies on apples and found that there can be at any one point in time up to 26 different chemicals in an apple. So we think like, oh, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? An apple a day is putting 26 chemicals in your body at one time. And the way that they test this is they did a study out in Europe, they won't do it in the United States, and they tested little kids' urine to see how many chemicals were in the urine. And they had the families go organic for 1 week to see how many of those chemicals would be gone from their body after going organic. And they were almost completely gone. So just that one switch from conventionally grown foods to the organic foods it doesn't take long, right? The study took place in 1 week. And they showed that the chemicals come out of your body in that 1 week period. Okay? Apples, 26 chemicals. Peaches, pears, cherries, grapes, celery, tomatoes, bell peppers, and potatoes. So one thing I want you to recognize that's common about all of those foods is they're typically grown on the ground. Okay, so foods that are on the ground are going to have more pesticides than some of them that are in the tree. Now, apples are being an exception because the apples are getting the nutrients from the soil, and also some of the foods that grow on the trees, they fly over and spray them. Bananas are terrifying. It's not on the lists, go at your own risk. Bananas, they wrap the bananas in a bag, like when they're growing on the tree, they wrap them in these blue bags, and they put sponges full of the chemicals, of the pesticides, in between the bananas, and then wrap them in a plastic bag so it stays in. Gross. So gross. And they're all GMO seeds now anyways. Okay. So really anything that grows on the ground, so the blueberries, the raspberries, any of the berries really, they're really good to get those ones organic. Anything that you know that's growing on the ground. So, any questions about clean foods, dirty foods, why we should go organic? Comments, concerns? No? Go ahead. Do you have something?
Well, we were just talking about, that's what we mostly buy is organic fruits and
Okay.
vegetables.
Great.
I love bananas, and sometimes I don't find the organic bananas. So that's always,
Something.
that will never happen
Something to
again.
know. So this happened to me too on my journey. So the comment is sometimes you can't find organic foods, okay? And the reason that is because foods naturally don't grow every season. Berries don't grow in the winter. They need the sunshine, they need the heat to grow the berries. So what happened to me when I started my clean eating journey is I started to notice things. The organic foods got way more expensive in the winter, or they weren't there at all. And I was still trying to find them. And when I did find them, because my kids really want to eat the raspberries and the strawberries and the blueberries, and they hate me all winter long because I don't buy it anymore. Because when I was looking at the labels, it was like Argentina or Puerto Rico, and I was like, how far, first of all, did my food have to travel? And you know as well as I do, if you get a package of fresh fruit, it goes bad, right? Like within a week. You have blueberries in your fridge for a week, you're going to open them up and they're going to be moldy. In order for those vegetables and fruits to last long enough, not go bad before they got here, they had to pick them before they were ripe, which meant that they ripened on the truck. So even if they are organic blueberries or organic strawberries or organic anything, they still have no nutrients because they didn't get to grow on the tree or on the vine or on the bush until they were ready to be eaten. So now they're here and we're like, oh yay, organic blueberries in December that taste like crap and cost $5 more. So this happened to me too, and what I had to do is I had to do what's called eating for the seasons, and that's why I started getting my farm box. That's the number one reason why I got my farm box. Number two, because it was inexpensive. Number three, because they delivered to my house and I'm a busy working mom and I don't want to have to go shopping every week to find what's in season. But I didn't want to have to guess anymore. So in this way, when my box came to me, I knew not only what was in season, but what was growing locally. Because the farm box only collects from farms that are local to the Temecula, Fallbrook, Rainbow area. Murrieta, I think, is included as well. But that's it. So now I know, not only am I getting fresh, organic, clean, no pesticides, it's local, and it's in season, and I'm supporting the local industry. So now, when I get my box, and maybe I got like 3 sweet potatoes, but I need 8. Now I can go to the grocery store, and I know sweet potatoes are in season and they're growing locally. I can buy 5 more there. So that gave me a really, really, really good jump off point to know what I should be eating and what I shouldn't be eating during those seasons. And then of course checking the labels to see where is this food coming from. I mean, we always go back to that, where is it coming from? Where is the labels? Where did we get it from? So that's why, I mean, that's another huge reason why I love my farm box. So now for me, part of my journey is that I only eat what's in season, what grows locally, and if I need more of something, I can absolutely go to the store and get it, but I know what I can get now. Like yesterday in my farm box, I got grapes and peaches and kale and lettuce and cucumbers and carrots. So if I needed more of any of those things, I could easily go to Roots or to Sprouts or wherever I'm going to get my groceries from and buy the organic produce, knowing that it grows enough here that I can buy locally. As well as sharpen the farmers markets, of course. Any other questions or comments or concerns? You guys are good? Okay, so my challenge again, just to reiterate, find something that you're not already doing organic and start doing that now, as well as really checking those labels, making sure you're understanding the ingredients and where those things are coming from. So ask the questions, check the label, get as organic as you can. If you can't afford it, I totally understand. Everybody's at a different place in their journey. Get as best as you can. All right, you guys, have a great night. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.